Om Niranjanam Nityam Anantarupam Bhaktanukampadhrita Vigraham Vai Ishavataram Parameshamidhyam Tam Ramakrishnam Sirsha Namaha. Namaste and welcome to our study of the Bhagavad Gita. We're studying chapter 12, Bhakti Yoga. And over the last two classes, we have been going through the various qualities that Sri Krishna prescribes for his devotees to practice, qualities that will endear them to him. So, as much as possible in our everyday life, this becomes our do's and don'ts, our guidelines. Now and then we should visit them and try to see how much we are following them. And in this way, use this as the guidance. In Kali Yuga, the path of bhakti is supposed to be the simplest and easiest. And so we have been going through the early verses where Sri Krishna says the path of knowledge, the path of approaching the impersonal Supreme Brahman is very, very difficult and a very steep climb for people in this age who are very much attached to the body consciousness, where dehavadbhiravapyate. And therefore, the mind has to be gradually weaned away from all the attractions and attachments to the world by giving it something more interesting, more attractive to focus on who is the source of all the attractions, even behind things of the world. So that type of approach where we deify the world, we spiritualize the world. We don't run away from the world, but we see beyond the facade of names and forms, things that attract us, people, house, money, whatever is there, really are forms, the outer shell. But behind each and every one of them, the real source of all attractions is that one universal consciousness, which is called God, the Supreme Being. So we don't run away from the world. We don't mercilessly discard the world and say this is all Maya and false and all that. But using the eye of knowledge, spiritual knowledge, Vedanta knowledge, we try to see through the external forms and recognize the internal divine being. And then again interact with that world. But no longer it's people, but it's God in the form of people. And when you put that into practice, that becomes Shiva Jnane Jiva Seva. That means behind the Jiva, the form is the divine Shiva. And so these are new ideas for some people, maybe. And therefore, we have to again and again meditate on them, think about them. Uh, Initially, it is all intellectually while you are studying or meditating. But then, when you are in the midst of activities in the world, we try to bring this knowledge and remind ourselves that what appears to be to us as the world is really God in these forms, and then try to re-interact with God in the form of the world, so to say, and that transforms what could be an ordinary activity into a spiritual discipline. So that is practical Vedanta, where we harmonize all the four yogas. We use the knowledge to understand what the world is there in front of us. It's not only what appears to us through the five senses, it is something more. And that what is that more? Behind the form is a spiritual consciousness. So that's the Jnana Marga. So then the moment you put God in, or the divine in the form, behind the form, then you have that penetrative insight and you begin to understand that you are not dealing with people, but dealing with the divine. And the divine is the real source of attraction that draws the mind out there. The beauty that you see externally is the manifestation of the inner beauty of the spirit in there. And the moment that spirit withdraws, like somebody who is very dear to you, And the moment the person passes away, well, that body is not attractive anymore. So the source of attraction was the spirit. But when we are not aware of the spirit, then we superimpose that to the physical body or individual and person. So we want to develop that knowledge. And when that knowledge is put into practice or applied in this way, and the mind becomes little purer, then we will begin to have that applied knowledge, which is called practical Vedanta. And you see the divine behind the world, people and everything. And then you interact with them, but it's not long, no longer you are attracted and attached to the external personality of the person, but you are attracted to and attached to the divine who is inside that person. And now you are saving the divine in that human form. Therefore, that your action, your interaction becomes karma yoga. So beautifully harmonizing all the yogas. Jnana yoga gives you the deep insight, comes from scriptures, studying, thinking, contemplation, satsang, all those things. You reinforce that idea again and again and again until it becomes powerful that it's there in the midst of all the tempest that is going around. Then, when you put that there and realize that whatever is attracting you there, whatever is beautiful behind things, really is that consciousness. And then towards that, your mind should go. It should not just go and look at the physical beauty or the external attractiveness. It should go and see, understand the source of that. And then you interact with that person, but you're not looking at them as your husband or wife or children or parents, but you are seeing God or the divine in these forms. And one day the forms will disappear, but the eternal spirit always remains and comes. And that is outside there, it's also in our own heart. So, how do we develop that? That's where the meditation comes. In deep meditation, you visualize the divine form in your own heart, beyond the body. Heart doesn't mean the physical heart space, it means beyond the body, beyond the mind, beyond the ego, the core of your being. Hrit ayam. Hrit means the center. Ayam means this. Wherever we feel this is the center of my being, that is, you said, from the bottom of my heart or my core of my being. So that is the place, center to which you focus your mind, give your buddhi there, manayava uh, give the mind and buddhi to that in deep meditation. Try to feel that. It's not too much of visualization, but it is about feeling the spiritual consciousness or energy at the core of your being and having a deep understanding and maybe an experience that I'm a spiritual being that has become embodied among so many bodies that I have taken in the past. This is one. If I'm not careful, I'll have to take many more. And every time I put on a body, I lose that infinite bliss, infinite knowledge, that omniscience and omnipresence of my spiritual nature. It all becomes reduced by this prison house or the cage of this body with its limited senses, limited mind, limited body, buddhi, and limited ego. This limited state is not the highest state, and therefore we should not desire to return to this again and again, but should transcend these limitations to access that which is our own divine birthright. That type of thinking again and again we do. That's called abhyasa. Why do we need to do that again and again? Because you need to create these new spiritual samskaras. The world has created too many samskaras at a very gross level, at the sense-bound level. Certain things we have studied and understood at an intellectual level. A little bit of spirituality we have practiced, rituals, ceremonies, festivals, and all those things. They have created some spiritual samskaras. But compared to the vast amount of worldly samskaras, impressions, the spiritual capital might not be so much. And therefore, we have to invest some time and effort in developing that. And when that has grown up into some measure, you'll find that they come to your help and sort of help you navigate your mind away from this external material world to that inner world of spirit, spirituality, religion, and all that. That's why satsang is very, very important. That is why doing your japa and meditation is very, very important. It might not be very attractive. It might be a little boring, might seem to very mechanically that you are repeating a mantra. It does not matter. Right now, you are not looking at the output immediately. You are just investing some time to build up that initial capital. Just like somebody who runs a business, after a few weeks, he's not checking out how much profit I'm making and all that. He knows that common sense is there, that couple of years maybe would be building up the foundation. Afterwards, the rewards will go. Likewise, in a spiritual life, one must not begin to immediately look for outputs or outcomes, saying, is my mind calm or am I having some realization or not? That is not practical common sense. So, in the beginning, just put your heads down and tails up, as they say, and just plod along, work along. In time, you'll find the results will begin to come. So, in this chapter, in the Bhakti Yoga, we were looking at the verses from here, Advaita Sarva Bhutanam Maitra Karuna Evacha, where Sri Krishna is beginning to talk about the qualities that one must practice in the midst of all activities as much as possible. At least we should be aware of them, and wherever the opportunity comes, then you reflect on that and say, this is an opportunity for me to practice something like that. And you'll find if you're mindful and alert, then there's so many opportunities that will come our way. So we had looked at, I think, 16. Anapeksha, Suchir Daksha, Udasino, Gatavyatha, Sarvarambha Parityagi, Yomad Bhakta, Samay Priya. Where Sri Krishna is telling, he who has no desires, no worldly desires. Okay, desires will be there, somewhere the mind must go, but not going to that external world where you get things, but they don't stay for long. Temporary, transience is there. What we want is something permanent, peace, permanent happiness, permanent knowledge, not something that will be taken away from us. Who is pure? Pure in body, in mind, in speech. That is very, very important. That means through that, the sattva guna will be cultivated. Who is dexterous? Dexterous here means who is very, very efficient. Whatever you do, put your full heart and soul into it. You come, that means there's less wastage of energy, effort. There's great efficiency in what we do. And who is impartial. That means he is not very strong likes and dislikes. He's sort of a neutral person, free from fear. Why does fear come? Fear comes from this the when you feel that you lose something that you have. If your health is there, if disease comes and you might die, there's a fear of death. If money, and if you fear that it might get lost, somebody might rob you, then fear comes. And if you are famous and well known, then you are feared that you might lose your reputation. So this whole thing is beautifully described in Vairagya Shatakam, Bharti Haris. If you search on the internet, you'll come across this wonderful poem. And he says that the final, towards the end, he comes and says, Sarvam Vastu Bhayanvitam Bhuin Nunam Vairagyam Eva Abhayam. Everything, Vastu, is fraught with fear, fear of loss. Therefore, we are always having anxiety and worries about them. But Vairagyam Eva Abhayam. Bhayam means fear, Abhayam means fearlessness. And how do we get fearlessness? Through Vairagya, dispassion, non-attachment. Nothing belongs to us. Everything is on rental. Use it, including this body. Go achieve what we want to do in this purpose life as long as we have, and move on. Let us not become trapped by this world. So let's have a look at the next one today. Yona hrishyati na dveshti na sochati na kanchati shubha shubha parityagi bhakti manya same priya. So in all this, the focus now has become keeping the balance, the poise, not letting the pendulum swing wildly, so to say. In this external world, it's a world of duality. It's always moving, pendulum swings. So you have what you call gain, and next moment you have got a loss. Good health, and next moment you have sickness. You have victory, and defeat will come. You achieve something great, and the next moment you lose it. That is the nature of this world. Nothing is permanent here. So, in the midst of getting and losing things, we don't want to let our mind swing along with that. Yona hrishyati na dvesti na sochati na kanchati. So these are the qualities. If we can maintain this poise and balance in the midst of everything happening, not getting very, very excited and extremely elated and joyful when something nice happens, and not getting very, very depressed and sad when things don't happen the way. For example, you're watching a football match, and you're a great fan of a particular team that is playing. World Cup is there. And so, of course, so many people are watching the game, and a particular result, like a goal, is scored. All those who are supporting a particular team which scores the goal suddenly just burst into a great amount of joy. And all the others immediately sink into so much sadness there. So it was only an event that happened. But because of our attachment to a particular team or a particular outcome that we're expecting, it gives us great joy and so on. So the ideal state is to be just an observer, somebody who loves football, who is watching, appreciating the good play from either team, and says, like an indifferent observer, spectator. That is the status that we want our mind to be in. So he who does not rejoice on getting a convertible thing, material thing, or some name or fame or some wonderful thing that he has been expecting, when he gets it, he does not rejoice excessively. Some joy will come, but you are not over the moon with that. And Natvesti, he does not fret, he does not become unhappy on getting an undesirable outcome. Okay, so Yona Hrishati, na dvesti, na sochati, na kanchati. One who, second, does not lament on the loss of a dear one or something that is very, very precious. So naturally, our mind tends to get attached to various things. It could be something very, very external, uh, like some material thing, non-living thing, a house or car or something. Somebody damages something like that, or something happens to that, either through nature or through somebody, that person becomes very, very sad. Or it could be a thing out there, an animal like a cat or pet or something. It could be a person out there, like a family member or relatives and all that. And when you lose them, naturally you become very, very sad and all that. It could be about some internal thing, that can unsettle your peace of mind. If you have a, say, a reputation and everyone likes you, and then somebody criticizes you or blames you or something and gives you a bad name, and that makes you. So it could be something external, material. It could be a non-living. It can be some living thing. It could be a person. It could be some internal. Anyway, wherever there is attachment, there is the seed of future misery, because that which gives joy will be taken away sooner or later, and then with its strength, it will bring equal, if not more, misery. How do we live in the midst of everything, uh, but not be attached to anything? They come, they stay, they go, and you are just a indifferent spectator, observer for the things. So, na sochati, na kanchati, does not hanker after an object not acquired. So you don't have something and say, I want this, and the desire starts in the mind. It's not that you need it, but you just, a desire comes, and then you see it takes you on this big, long ride. And you probably, when you get it after all that effort, you find that it doesn't give you all that happiness that you have really expected. For example, you might have a simple ordinary car that takes you from point A to B, and then you suddenly see, yes, have in your mind a desire appears for some fleshy, expensive car, which is beyond your means or something for the time being. But the desire is so strong that you might want to take a loan or this or that and buy it, and have a ride, and gives you some joy in the beginning, but after some time you just feel it's just not much different from car A to that takes you from point A to B. It might be a very powerful car, but you can't drive it more than 50 or 100 kilometers on the motorway. So, and if people, so many other people have it, so no one really pays much attention to your wonderful car, because you might thought that might give you some status in the society, whatever is there. Anyway, but it brings so much effort that you'll have to earn money and pay for it and maintain it. And if somebody scratches it a little bit, again, you become miserable about it, you see. So there are a lot of things you'll find that you'll have in your house around you, which are not in your essentials list, that you don't need, and you probably are not using it. Even if you look into your wardrobe and say, which clothes I have not worn for over the last year, if not, then you should actually take them out and donate it to somebody, because it is just there that you might feel I will use it sometime, but you're not really using it. And you'll find that in the house and around, a lot of things accumulate. They might have been useful, but now not useful anymore, but they just occupy the space and fill the place around there, but not needed. It's better to get rid of things and be very, very light. Traveling light baggage in the world, so to say. We are all here as a tourist. We don't want too much things that weigh us down. When the time comes, we should be ready to go. That's an interesting incident that I can narrate here. When I was in the training center, a training center is where brahmacharis we have to go through 9 years of training, in which 2 years is spent at our headquarters in Belur Math. Very, very intensive training. And there are very senior swamis under whom we study, and of course, this uh, very serious practice of spiritual disciplines and all that at our headquarters. There was an elderly swami there who used to take some classes in Sanskrit for brahmacharis. And his room was something to be seen. There was nothing much in there. There was a bed without any mattress, just a wooden bed, in which in India it tends to get very hot. So they have a little mat, like a reed mat, just like a very thin piece of cloth. And he had a study table with some books, which he didn't own. He borrowed it from the library or whatever. And there was a study table, and that's it in the whole room. He had a few clothes, maybe 2 sets or so of what is a dhoti and upper cloth and all that. And every day in the morning, he will tie it all up as if he has to go out there. And in one hand, this is a small bag, it will be there. So somebody asked him, Swamiji, you're not going out any day, but why are you going through this exercise as if you are going out somewhere visiting or living for a while? He said, look, I have trained my mind that I should be ready to depart at any moment. And I'll have the minimum baggage and no attachment to this place. It's like a hotel room that I stayed overnight. I had very few things, 2 pieces of cloth that I'm carrying, and I just I don't have any attachment to this place or the people or anything. But I don't go, so I unpack, and next morning I live one more day. But that is a training of the mind where you don't have any attachment to the place, to the people, or anything there. And when you practice it day in, day out, naturally the mind becomes totally uprooted and ready to go. That mind which is free from all attachment is a wonderful mind. It's absolutely peaceful, nothing around there disturbs your peace of mind. But one must work out some methods by which one can practice that and really develop those samskaras. It's not only just saying, okay, I'm not attached to anything. I have all those things around my house, but really, believe me, I don't have any attachment. You will be surprised. The way to test whether you have attachment is or not is if somebody takes that away from you, and you don't feel any loss or misery or any sadness about it, then you are truly detached from it. But if it makes you react in a negative way, you feel sad or loss, then the conclusion is that you were not really detached from it. Attachment was there in very, very subtle form. So mind plays all the games, and one has to learn how to treat this mind as a master. So, Yona Hrishati na dveshti na sochati na kanchati. He does not rejoice, does not fret, does not lament, does not hanker after things. Shubha Shubha Parityagi, who gives up all good and bad actions. So, does he stop doing good things at all? Of course, he should not do bad things, but does he uh, stop doing good things? You'll find that it is basically in the beginning stages, you have to do action. No one can sit quietly and say, I'm not going to do anything. Action is, and action here does not mean only physical action, that you're physically doing things. Talking is an action. Thinking is an action. Meditating is an action also. All these are different forms of actions. So we all have to act uh, without any exception. But one does not have attachment to the results of the action. So whatever we do good things, and we offer that at the feet of the Lord as our offering. Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu. Like we are doing these studies. It's a good action. Good for you, good for me. But at the end of the class, we offer it to the divine because it is by his grace and his wish who resides in your heart and in my heart, but he has directed our minds so that we have gathered here together, are discussing the scriptures. If his grace was not there, if that interest was not there, if that consciousness was not present within us, then we would not be involved in this particular study. So at the end of the day, he alone is the doer. He alone is the speaker. He alone is the listener, and the result belongs to him. That should be the attitude. So, but doing good is very, very important also as a sadhana. You know, Swami Vivekananda says to be good, to do good, that is the whole of religion. What a wonderful definition of religion. It's not saying that you have to be a Hindu or Muslim or this ism or that ism, follow any path or believe in this particular book or that particular prophet. It is about coming in this world, which is a karma bhumi, a place of action, in which we are doing things and being good, to do good, to be good. And if you want to say why, what's the rationale behind this type of definition, saying that this is the actual religion? Well, you see, our previous lifetimes and this lifetimes, we have engaged in different actions which have left the impressions on the mind, and the mind has become clouded. So, like the sun is out there in the sky, but on a cloudy day, it blocks the vision of the sun. A little bit of light is there, we can see things around, but we don't have the warmth of the sun and this beautiful light. So, likewise, the Atman is there within us, but its glory, its all power is now obstructed partially by this mind. What is this mind? It is a repository of all the samskaras from previous lifetimes we have collected. So this cloud has to move aside. Only then we will be able to get a glimpse and have a vision of that inner Atma, Antaratma, the Atman that is there. And all sadhana is there for the purpose of purifying this mind. That's why it's called Chitta Shuddhi. Chitta means is the mind. Shuddhi means it has become polluted or contaminated by all these samskaras. Most of them are worldly samskaras because we did engage with the world and that has left an impression. Now we have to bring in the counter samskaras, the spiritual samskaras that will undo all that. So Holy Mother says, like if somebody has got three strings and it turns it around and tries to form a little rope around it, and therefore it has a stronger binding effect. But if you want to remove the binding effect of the rope, then you have to undo it by turning it in the opposite direction, like a screwdriver. Turn it clockwise, tightens. So you have to do it anti-clockwise, turn it around in the opposite direction. And so uh, you'll find that all the prescriptions for actions, this to do, these are the things to be done, and these things are not to be done. The ones to be avoided are the ones that will bind us to the world more, and the ones to be done are the ones that will undo or turn it in the spiritual direction. So, from that point of view, to be good, to do good, that means constantly trying to generate these spiritual samskaras. Don't be idle, and we have to be incessantly active, but doing good works. If you can't do things physically, you can do it, through speech, if not through speech, through thoughts, through prayer, through meditation. But let the mind be always be in a direction that is it's directed towards a spiritual, the spiritual inner self is there. So Shubha Shubha Parityagi. Ultimately, Sri Krishna will tell Arjuna at the end, Sarva Dharman Parityakya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. So I've taught you all these yogas and everything. Very nice. But I will tell you another easier path. Give attachment to all of them. If it comes your way, do it. If it doesn't come, doesn't matter. But let your mind be attached to me. Mam ekam sharanam braja. Take refuge in me. Who is that me? Not that person who was born in uh, as Sri Krishna, but the spiritual being that incarnated. Who is that being? He dwells in our own heart as our innermost soul. Aham Atma Gudakesha Sarva Bhuta Hridayasthatha. Sri Krishna tells Arjuna, I am the Atman, or Gudakesha. Gudakesha's name of Arjuna. Sarva Bhuta Hridayasthatha. Aham Adhimta Madhyam Cha Bhutanam Antave Cha. I am the beginning, I am the middle, I am the end of all beings. That means everything originates from me, everything is sustained by me, everything retains to me. Everything. That means the name and form. It's like the ocean is the eternal reality out of which we as waves arise, stay for a while, and return. The ocean is permanent. That is the Antaratma. That is the Brahman. That's the Paramatma. And when it becomes embodied, limited as a wave, that is a Jivatma that has taken a little form, plays on the ocean. All this drama happens. But whether there are billions of waves or no waves, it doesn't add anything to the ocean. It does not subtract anything from the ocean when they disappear. The ocean is the eternal, unchanging reality. The secret of success to play on the surface of the ocean as a wave is to be always mindful of the ocean, which is the source of all power and glory, and not that we are some free floating entity on our own, totally disconnected from the reality. That is not the enlightened way of looking at ourselves and looking at others. We are all little bubbles in that vast ocean of consciousness. So, such a devotee is very, very dear to the Lord. Bhaktiman में प्रिय समय प्रिया यो न हृष्यति न द्वेष्टि न सोचति न कांचति शुभाशुभ परित्यागी भक्तिमान्य भक्तिमान्य समय प्रिया. All right. Any questions? Everyone is listening very carefully, quietly.
Yes, Swamiji, I have a question.
Mm,
Or maybe more just some clearance. I mean, you're talking about attachment to things,
mm,
and one of the things is the body. Okay, it's not fully attachment, but I mean, if we like the body carries the atma, and with the body you do all the karms.
mm.
So if you don't look after your body, you're not able to achieve these things. So when you say reference to attachment and the body,
Mm.
can you please explain further on that? Because if okay, all human beings have body. I mean, if we don't look after our body, then we can't do karma for the next life if we are going to go there. Or, the jivatma resides in our body.
Yeah, so
So
see, attachment to the body and not taking a detachment from the body and not taking care of that body are not the same thing. The body is a vehicle, a means to take you from point A to point B. If you have a car, you have to take care of it. You have to service, maintain it, and make sure there's all those things there. Only then it will function. But you are not the car. Okay, you're a driver. You could be sitting in any other car. You can even walk. There are other means. So this is only a means to an end. When we become identified with the body, then we get into problem. When you say, I am this body. Okay, so what does that attachment will come? Okay, I am male, I am female, I am young, I am old, I am black, I am brown, I am white. All the qualities that are of the body are now being transposed on this person, the Atman which is living in it. And that's how it gets caught. Okay, so that identification has to be removed. And how
So
is that to be done? So how is that to be done? You have to say, identify yourself with the real you that you are. What is that? I'm the Atman. Okay. And I live in this body. I'm using it for this purpose, and it has got a purpose, so I'll take care of it. But I also know it is not mine. It's only like a rental car. Okay. It's not like you own the car. That type of thing. You take care of it, but don't be attached to it. Don't be identified with it. The moment you become identified with it, then any change that happens to the body or whatever you're identified with will begin to affect your mind.
so the main thing is like saying I, is the ego, that I am this.
So when I say, normally I doesn't stand hanging on its own, it says I am something. Okay. All right. So if I ask you, who are you? Immediately you tell me something about yourself, your name. That means the label that has given to this body by your parents. You might tell me about your profession. That means about the training or education that you have received. You might tell about various other attributes. But really, you are not them. If you say, my name is Satish, it's fine. But your parent could have been given any name to you. That's just a label for identifying you and communicating like this. So, in this way, through spiritual understanding, we try to discriminate and say, look, I am not this. Essentially, my fundamental identity is that I'm a spiritual being. And that identity is far superior to this, whatever is the body or the personality identity. Because that's why you tell yourself, I'm an eternal and immortal being. So don't just use these words, but dwell on them. What does it mean to be eternal and immortal? That is my true reality. That means I'm beyond time, I'm beyond space. Death cannot touch me. I was not even born as a spiritual being. The body was born, the body will die, but I am something far much more wonderful than that. Even death cannot touch me. If you just contemplate on that idea deeply and you say, wow, that is so good, then you'll find that your anchor, your essence of point of identification happily leaves this body. And why should I'm not the body? Then you examine the body. What is inside that body? Outside looks very nice when it's young. Later on, as it becomes old, then you begin to see it's difficult to maintain that, that beauty. But inside it's just a skeleton, a framework which has been fleshed up with a lot of things inside there that don't look very nice, and you have a little bit of a decorative external and complexion and hair and cosmetics and clothes and jewelry and all those things. We try to just beautify it, all that. But even in spite of our best effort, it will break down one day somewhere and go. Compared to that is my second option, the spiritual identity. And when you discriminate in this way, you'll find that the mind always wants the best. It wants the higher truth. It will happily give up this lower one in exchange for this other identity. So this is the way not to be identified. But that doesn't mean that you don't take care of this physical body. You need it to function through. But if it goes, then it goes. And you'll get another one. And sometimes it's better to get an old rattling car and buy a new one. So that type of practical sense is there, to be detached from it. It is a vehicle to have an experience in this world, so long it serves a practical purpose, functional, take care of it, and but not to be the owner of it, to look upon it as a rental thing. Make sense?
Yeah. Thank you, Swamiji.
Yeah. And when you think about it, this body is what? Okay. It's only matter. Matter that was in a plant that is consumed and is turned into human flesh and all those things. And every moment, so many cells are being born and so many are dying. It's like a whirlwind, whirlpool. You have seen this dust devils. Swami Vivekananda in the complete work says you have this vortex of energy spinning very fast, and it pulls in dust and leaves and things, and and constantly is drawing things, and on the other side it is losing out things. So this body is something like that. It starts as a single or double cell organism, and then it grows in the mother's womb, and then it's born, then it feeds and grows bigger. And while it is young, it is able to maintain its shape, but at some point it's not able to recover the losses. Hair begins to turn white and skin begins wrinkle and all that. But all that is there, the matter belongs to this material world. This body is just a vortex which is there for a purpose. In this way, if we discriminate, then you'll find this attachment or identification with this body begins to loosen. But the best way is to give it something else to identify with, and that is the spiritual identification. That's why this Nirvana Shatakam, Manobuddhi Ahankara Chittani Naham, all that, and every verse ends with Chidananda Rupo Shivoham Shivoham. That means I am that infinite bliss, infinite consciousness. Ah, Shivoham, I'm the most auspicious being. And how to bring about this separation? That was the theme of chapter 13, Kshetra Kshetrajna Vibhaga Yoga. When we are able to separate this Atman totally from this body-mind complex, that state of total separation, permanent separation, is called mukti, self-realization. Good question. Anyone else?
Swamiji, I had a question.
Mm-hmm. Who's this?
This is Sarayu Swamiji.
Yeah, sorry.
So whenever we are performing any of the worldly duties, the involvement that we have, it also involves at an emotional level. Uh, so the detachment from that, does it happen through contemplation later on, or even while performing the action, can we have the detachment? Because when we say we have done some action very passionately or have complete involvement, it is natural that the emotions also take a play there.
So in the initial stages, when the mind is not totally trained, you can at least, okay, maybe in the end of the day, you come back and sit down and do your meditation, and then you reflect on the day and you say, oh, it was very nice, but I was very excited and all that. But because of my attachment, I also have this other side of the pendulum swings around. So you observe, but at the end of the day, you analyze yourself and say, how did the day go? And you say, okay, that was emotions are good, but that's how the mind gets caught with the external world. This mind I'm trying to give to the divine in during my meditation, I find all that excitement and things that I did in the daytime, they tend to draw it out. So was that that excessive attachment and emotions in the midst of work, are they really good from a spiritual point of view? And you say, oh, okay, no, maybe that was so, like, that's the beginner's point of view. A little bit more advanced person will be very guarded and alert, and he goes to work next day and said, okay, yesterday I thought very deeply, and now I'm going to try to see how much balance I can maintain. And so at least before starting the work, you make a resolve that now I'm going to do these actions, but I'm going to practice a degree of detachment. Just be an observer, a witness. Things are happening. They're happening not just because of you. There's so many factors around there, and that has contributed to its success. Or if it failed, then so many other factors contributed to its failure. It's not all the credit that must come to you, or blame should come to you. You maintain that type of indifference. That doesn't mean that you are negligent about work, that you are doing a 5/8 type of job. You're not paying attention to it. No, you're giving your whole mind to it, but not getting it drag you out there. So you make that sankalpa, start the thing, and then in the middle, okay, forget about that. Your whole mind is now occupied with the activity and this and that. But when you finish, have that calm moment and look back and say, okay, how much balance or detachment could I maintain? But you might find that maybe 5% you could, 95% it was all Mind was totally taken up by that activity. But you remind yourself and say, okay, Sri Krishna Arpanamastu. And if you keep on practicing abhyasa, you will find that even in the midst of activities, you will find that you'll be able to keep a certain degree of aloofness, detachment, that it is not going to, it's not really dragging your mind away totally. And in the midst of that, you have a sense of awareness that there is something within me, or uh, the when the mind begins to develop that sattva. Okay, when a tamas is there too much, you can't hold on to these ideas. They are very good when you're studying and thinking, but in practice, you'll find no help. When rajas is very, very powerful, then all the desires and all those things, they also sweep the mind away. But when some degree of sattva has been cultivated, and that's why initial stages of japa and meditation mind seem very, very mechanical and all that, but they are very, very useful to develop that sattva. And to whatever degree that sattva has developed, that is what will help you maintain that equilibrium, the balance, the poise, the rhythm in the midst of activity. But at least the ideal should be there in front of the seeker. Compared to somebody, you might be reading the Gita and said, I'm going to try to practice. At least you know the spiritual ideal of how to work work, but without any attachment. Compared to somebody who doesn't know anything about this, and they think, oh, work must be, you must be totally passionate about it. The more passion you can bring into work, the more success chances of success is there. Somebody who doesn't have a spiritual perspective. See, so for a spiritual person, they will try to engage in work, but try to have that witness detachment. And different people are in different stages of their spiritual journey, and their minds are constituted in different ways. How we are reacting to work in different situations gives you a very good feedback about your own mind, about where you are spiritually. If you find tremendous amount of attachment and all those things are there, well, that is your mind. You know that better than anyone else. I know my mind, you know your own mind, and each one has to work on that. Don't get disheartened if you find that, oh, the mind is so much, caught up in so many things. But at least we are awake to the idea, making that effort. It's better to take even that one child's baby step, but at least it's in the right direction. Anything is possible due to through divine grace. From our side, we can practice, but that alertness and aloofness and vigilance is necessary. Eternal vigilance is the price of liberty. American motto. It is also totally applicable for the spiritual ideal also. Vigilance means alertness. Eternal means constant. You can't be napping and suddenly wake up all the time being alert. Liberty means freedom. Here, in our case, it means spiritual freedom, mukti. So, if one is a mumukshu, a spiritual seeker, one has to be very, very alert about the world, the work, and you have to go and work. It's a means of earning your livelihood and all those type of things. But more than that, life is not, the world is not going to give you much more. It'll take its pound of flesh. That is the truth of this nature of this world. Good. So yeah, it's all about practice. The one doesn't become spiritual by reading the Gita and Upanishad and attending all these classes. One has to take this out in the field of work and test it out. One doesn't become a swimmer by reading the manual. One has to get into the water and swim. And of course, you drink some water in the early stages, but through practice, one becomes an expert swimmer. So we have to learn how to swim in this world. Hope that makes some sense, Saraya?
Yes, Swamiji.
Good. Take one idea. See, this is a secret. Take one idea, think deeply about it, whatever appeals to you, and say, this is the one I'm going to try to practice at my workplace, on my life, in this situation. And make sure that is all the time in front of your mind. And you have to keep on working on it. And after some time, you'll find that because you are alert to it, and wherever some opportunity comes, for example, at work, if somebody praises you, it's wonderful work, and you become very, very happy. But here I've read today that you should not become very, very happy when something like that happens. Or on the other side, somebody criticizes you or things didn't happen to you, where then you became very sad. You've come here and read the Gita and said, oh, that's not good. But in actual life, you find that this swinging is happening. So you will say, okay, I'm going to try to maintain that balance in things. Things will happen around me, but I'm not going to swing along with that. And how that's going to happen? Well, in the pendulum, a long string is there, and you're on the bob, and the further away from that point where the string is tied to the piece of wood or whatever is there, the further away we are, the bigger the swing. And if you keep going up and up, the swing becomes less. Outside, those at the below level are swinging very fast, very much. But if you reach that point where the string is tied, then you're not swinging at all. The goal of working, the secret of work is to be sitting in that center in the midst of all activities and yet being totally detached. That is the state called Sthita Prajna, which is Sri Krishna is trying to tell Arjuna. Don't run away. You will not find peace in the forest. You be in the middle of this battle of life, but you should know where to fight from. And that point is within us at that deeper consciousness level. And how do we approach that? Through meditation, through japa, being mindful of that goal, and then going out and fighting and testing out yourself where you are. Kaun kitna pani mein khada hai, that we find out by actually going out in the field of work. Swami Vivekananda says anyone can sit down in a cave quietly thinking that one has become very, very spiritual and all those things. But in actual fact, when we go out in the field of work and see, how much the world can throw us up and down, that is the test of your own spirituality or spiritual progress. It's for that reason in the Ramakrishna mission, the monks don't go and sit in some mountain cave, but they go and practice all those things. But come in the middle of life and work and everything and try to test themselves out step by step, engage in all various activities and services, but be totally detached or be ready to drop it at any moment and leave and have no reaction in the mind. That type of training can only happen by being in it, not being out of it. So, what you call work, worldly life, is just another great opportunity if you have the spiritual ideal in front of you. It's not something that you should look down upon and say, it's a worldly life. I wish I was more spiritual, living in some quiet place and this and that. No, no, no. The same mind will go even if you go in a mountain cave and all the desires and turbulence would be there. It's better to work out some of the desires in there and develop the stamina by being in the gymnasium of life. That's why Swami Vivekananda beautifully says, this world is a gymnasium where we come to do exercises to become spiritually strong. And it's only the strong people can fight and win in this life. So strength. And that strength comes from our spiritual source, our Atman nature, that understanding and knowledge. Okay, anyone else has something to add or ask? No. All right, so we'll take another one. All right. Shama shatro cha mitre cha tathat mana apamanayo शीतोष्ण सुख दुखेषु समसंग विवर्जिता. Sama. Samatvam yoga muchate. Sama means equanimity, sameness, not leaning this side or that way, looking alike. That means your mind is not getting affected, attached this way, that way. So sama, same to friends and enemies. Shatrocha mitrecha. He who is same towards Shatrocha mitre means towards friend and foe. Friends are those people who are good to you, help you, don't have to any and help you in different ways, so conducive to your own well-being. And there will be other people out there who won't be, who might hurt you, harm you, and all those things. But they are all different waves in the same ocean. Some will be there. This is how the world is constituted. It's not that everyone is same. If everyone was good, then this world activity will stop. The very requirement of this world is that there has to be these poles, pairs of opposites, dvanda, duality. So you'll have all these types of people, friends, enemies. But as a spiritual seeker, if you want to be very close to Sri Krishna or to the divine, you should treat them alike. Okay, so externally they are behaving in a way that is good, friendly, or and as enemies. But inside both of them is that same being that dwells in my own heart, in your heart, in everyone's heart. So when we look beyond the external form and see the one which is within, then with that understanding, that insight, we can maintain a degree of equanimity. How would that be? Okay, well, the divine who dwells in my heart dwells in the heart of the friend there and the enemy there. Actually, he has put all these roles, and he's a hero and he's the villain. This is his movie, this is his drama. I'm going to not get carried away by the movie, but I'm going to be aware that he's there. And the moment you can recognize them, then he'll find that he will drop you, let you go. Sri Ramakrishna explains in a beautiful way. He says, the uncle, trying to be very playful, puts on a frightening mask and goes to the little nephew and tries to frighten him. And the little child sees that terrible, frightening mask and screams. That's the first response. But then he looks closely and recognizes that behind the mask is his uncle. And he says, I see you. And the moment that recognition comes, the fear disappears. And the excitement of trying to frighten that also disappears. The uncle says, hey, there's no fun anymore. I'm going to frighten somebody else there, have some fun with others. So this is how God plays. He puts on all these roles. Sometimes he'll put a good role and you get totally enchanted by him. And sometimes he comes with a stick and you get totally frightened. But if you can see behind the masks that there's only one being who's playing all this, then he will not, he'll let you alone because there's no fun to the person who has recognized the truth behind the facade. The word personality comes from a Latin word persona, which means the mask. The jiva puts on these upadhis, these masks. So in the olden days, when people used to have these dramas on stage, they would put different masks to depict different characters. Likewise, God, in his playfulness, is a uh, wonderful in playing this game of hide and seek. So he puts on all these masks, and and you have all these people around you. But if you can see through the mask and say there's the one being behind all of them, Yo mam pashyati sarvatra sarvam cha mai pashyati tasyaham na pranashyami sachame na pranashyati. Chapter 13, we read this particular verse. He who sees me on all beings and all beings in me. So that is the type of application. Samashatrosha mitresha. Tatha mana apamanayo. This is very interesting. When people honor you, praise you, and all this say nice things about you, then you see the ego puffs up like a little frog. So nice. I'm liked by everyone. I'm honored by everyone. I'm famous. I'm popular. And he tries to do more of what is necessary to be uh, well known. So in this modern age, you have all this internet and influencers and putting things on the Facebook, having a meal or traveling around to show you. And then you watch how many people are liking you and how many nice comments are coming there. And if friends and relatives show appreciation, then you become very happy. You are actually out in a restaurant having a nice food to enjoy. Why would you want to show it to the world and wait what they say? But so hungry we are that people are there for external recognition and appreciation that they do all these type of things. And apamana means opposite. Yeah. So people see a bad comment, somebody disliked and criticized or something like that, you feel humiliated. In other words, we are slaves to the external world. The world makes us jump and dance to its music, and we are at their mercy. One person can say something and make you very, very happy. Another one can say another thing and make you very, very sad. There's no glory in such a life when we are slaves to people's opinion, cheap opinions like that, who don't really care very much about what they say anyway. But you see, much of what we see in social media and all this thing is just has got this type of mental sickness where we're constantly looking for the world to vet what we are, because our inner sense of identity or worth or value of that spiritual being that we really are, that is so lost. We are so detached and forgotten that we are now trying to see how our behavior, our dress, our social recognition, these things give us value. And of course, they will give you one moment, you become the very famous person, you become the prime minister, the next moment, you're a man on the street. And this is the world. Everything can be given, but when the great death comes, it will take everything away. So, how do we live in this world so that one moment it is given to you, you don't get very, very excited and all that. Next moment it's taken away from you, it doesn't touch you. That is that that state of mind that is like the anvil of a blacksmith. You know, you beat a piece of gold on that or beat some iron on that, it doesn't matter. Having this type of balance is what endears a person to the divine. स सम शत्रु च मित्रे च तथा मानापमानयो शीतोष्ण सुख दुखेषु समसंग विवर्जिता. The second verse, part of the verse, we will take up in the next class. And yeah, and then you're just almost, these are only 20 verses in this particular, so we should be able to finish in the next class. But think, if you've got questions, ideas, suggestions, and all that, we can do a revision after that. And we're coming close to the end of chapter 12, Bhakti Yoga. Let's offer this to the divine. Om Asato Ma Sadagamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tassat. Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.